Hey now everybody, Jamie here, and today is part 3 of my series on Star Trek board games. Now, this is going to be the final in the series about board games, solely because I'm not a machine. I don't have every single game out there. I haven't played every single Star Trek board game out there. I mean, there's some great ones. There's Starfleet Battles, there's Star Trek Catan, there's Star Trek Attack Wing, there's even some deck building games with the Star Trek theme, and I just don't have them. But once I get a big cache of those back in and I start playing some more of them, I'm gonna pick up this series at that time. So let's get on with part 3 of my Star Trek board game series.
Star Trek Expeditions.
All right, so the first one I'm going to talk about here, I'm not going to give a ton of time to, simply because I'm not a huge fan of it. This one is a Reiner Knizia cooperative game, and it's based on the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, which aren't my favorite. I like them just fine, but they're not my favorite. But the game itself is just kind of boring. The theme is that you're the crew, you're coming down from the Enterprise onto the planet, you're going around cooperatively trying to solve a bunch of issues that are going on the planet, you're going back up to the ship because stuff goes on up there and whatnot. I'll be honest with you, I haven't played this game in years since it originally came out. I played it a bunch of times and tried to get into it. It's Star Trek. I really wanted to like it, but each game I just realized this is just not for me, so I gave it away. As far as the production goes, I mean, the board is dreadfully boring. It has like stock imagery of a planet and space, and I don't think they put a lot of effort into this one. The game is just okay. Thematics are boring. Star Trek fans, there's so many other games out there that you can get and enjoy. This one is not the one. I'm not a fan.
I guess we weren't sufficiently entertaining.
Star Trek Galactic Enterprises.
So the second one on the list today is going to make up for all of that stuff I said about Expeditions. This one is fantastic. This is a card game where you're not playing a bridge crew, you're not building a civilization, you're not manning fleets. This is about Ferengi trade in Star Trek, and there is no other game that is as unique as this one on the list of Star Trek games. I love it. The basic concept of this game is that you're trying to get the most gold-pressed latinum. You're trying to make the most money.
A man is only worth the sum of his possessions.
So you put out a whole market of cards that are different things that the Ferengi might trade. And you go around the table bidding on the items that you want. You bid the highest, you get that, you put it in your pool, and then you go to the coolest phase ever designed by man. And this is the price fixing phase. You're trying to sell these items off now to make a profit. So there's a base price and there's a maximum price, which is double the base price essentially. And you have to secretly write down what you're going to sell each one of these items for. Now, everybody else might have the same items as well. So they're going to be writing down their numbers secretly. The person who writes down the lowest number is the one that's going to sell those items. So now you get into this wheeling and dealing of talking to the other players about how you're going to fix these prices so everybody profits. Sounds easy, right? Until everybody reveals and they completely stabbed each other in the back and they try to undercut everybody so they're the only ones that make the money instead of sharing it with everybody. This is a straight up cutthroat game.
Exploitation begins at home.
You're going to leave this game with hard feelings because you're playing a dirty, rotten, stinking, cheating, greedy Ferengi. And that's how you got to play this game. It's terrific.
We have to out Ferengi. The Ferengi.
Man, there's so much you can work with here because you're going through this phase and you're wheeling and dealing with the other players, and you honestly might want to work with somebody to make a bunch of money so that you can offset that balance from the first player to where you are in the mix. You know, like, okay, let's screw him over by working together, making a ton of money, then we'll catch up to him. And that's great. Until that person undercuts you and you get nothing and they get a ton of money. So that's wonderful. And then, of course, there's mistrust in the game then, and you have to win that trust back, or you can be trustworthy the entire time and strike when the iron's hot to lie to them and make your big payoff. Dude, this game is rad. I love it. It's terrific. It's a wonderful Star Trek game. Thematically, it's perfect with the Ferengi. If you're a Star Trek fan who likes the Deep Space Nine and the Ferengi world, that area, you're going to dig this game. Absolutely get this game. if you want to lose friends.
Commander, I think now would be a very good time for that beam out.
Star Trek Frontiers.
Okay, so this is another one that it's very polarizing for me, honestly. This one is basically Mage Knight rethemed to Star Trek. It's almost the same game, just rethemed to Star Trek. And I'll be honest with you, I like this one way better than I like Mage Knight because, listen, Mage Knight is a hugely popular game. It's number 25 on the Board Game Geek's top games of all time. Isaac Childress, the designer of Gloomhaven, which is the number one game on Board Game Geek, has this in his top 10 games of all time. And how am I supposed to argue with the gentleman Isaac Childress? Very easily, I don't really care for it. But here's the thing about it. I can recognize the fact that this game is a wonderful game that's just not for me. The concept of this game is that you are one of you can either be the Defiant or you can be the Enterprise or you could be a couple of Klingon ships. And you're going through this wormhole, popping out into this area where you've never explored before. And you're exploring space. You're finding planets. You're finding space stations. You're fighting aliens. You might even fight each other in some respects. Stuff like that. And it's all done through deck building. This is a deck building game that is the most complex deck building game in the entire history of deck building games. I'm talking, this rule book has the tiniest font you will ever see, and the book just goes on and on and on and on and on.
All I require is to sit in the sun, read my book, alone.
It is complex and it is difficult to get into, so this game certainly isn't for everyone. Thematically, it's weird because it's both great and not great at the same time. Great because it really does have the taking your little ship miniature and flying it out and discovering all those cool things and interacting with them and fighting those things and coming up with all these cool little things to do. You're crewing your ship with all different characters from Star Trek. You're building a deck that kind of works the way you want it to work for your play style. Really cool thematic stuff. But then again, deck building games are very difficult to make thematic because you have to play your actions from the cards you have available to you. So it never quite feels like, your ship can do these things, all of these things. And sometimes you just can't do the things you want to do. So you got to kind of figure out some thematic way in your head why that's working that way. So ultimately, the game is great. It's basically a big, heavy, complex Euro game with an adventure, action-packed exploration game kind of facade over the top. I think it's great for a lot of people. I did enjoy my play of this game. I think it's a well-done game. Not my favorite, and if you're not a person who's into that complex style of game, I'm not sure that this one's going to be for you. Try something different. There's a lot of other games on here that are less complex and give you the same vibes. But if you're way into those heavy Euros, crunchy strategy games, this one is great for you. And I do like it better than Mage Knight. I think the theme fits better on this game than the fantasy theme did in Mage Knight. So check it out. This one's a good one.
Yes, well, it would pose an extremely complex problem in logic, Mr. Spock. Excuse me. I sometimes expect too much of you.
Star Trek Panic.
So the final game for today's list is an absolutely wonderful game that I never expected I would like. I got it solely to do this series of videos, and I was like, this is going to be just kind of bleh, but I'll put it in there because I want to have it in. But damn, didn't it become one of my favorite Star Trek games I own. It's absolutely wonderful. This is basically a tower defense game where the Enterprise is in the middle of the board, and coming from the different quadrants from around your ship, there's Romulans, there's Klingons, there's Tholians coming in, all different kinds of those ships, and you got to fight them off while you're trying to do whatever mission you have out. You have a mission card out, and you have to do certain things to satisfy that mission, but also these other races are just bombarding you constantly, and you're trying to kill them off before they completely destroy your ship. It is a very, very difficult cooperative game. And let me tell you, these components are absolutely stellar. You put together this little cardboard enterprise, and every time your ship takes damage, you're taking out these big shield marks, these giant like plastic shields, and pulling them out and putting them away. And once your ship starts taking damage, you're putting like these explosion markers and destroyed markers all over your ship. The ship looks fantastic as it's blowing up. It's so wonderful.
I didn't mean to say that the Enterprise should be hauling garbage. I meant to say that it should be hauled away as garbage.
I just love playing this game. It's exciting, it's fun, and I do like the system, this whole panic system. They have Castle Panic, they have, Dead Panic was the zombie one, and this one is Star Trek Panic. Great game. Love it. There are some problems with it. I think it definitely overstays its welcome. It just goes on and on and on. And there are certain situations that you can get into where you just have to call the game. You know you're going to lose, but the game keeps you going and going and going. And there's like, yeah, there's no way I can win. Why is the game just not ending? You just call the game at that point. Now, you can win the game, of course. It's not too hard to win. It's just that you know when the game is over at a certain point. You just have to call it. I love the different characters that the crew members, Scotty and Kirk and Uhura and all of them, Spock, they have all different powers that you can use. And those powers are so much fun because they're so thematic to the characters that you're playing. I got to say, this is one of the most thematic games of all of these for Star Trek. It just feels so cool moving the ship around and fighting those Klingons and playing cards to blast them out of the sky while you're doing the mission. And each one of those missions is very thematic as well. They affect the Enterprise in a way that whatever the mission happens to be affected the Enterprise in the TV show they're sort of referencing. Such a simple game. And such an easy game to play. You can play with kids or adults, whatever. And it's just fun. Star Trek fans will revel in this great, great Star Trek game. Please check it out.
For the first time in my life, I was happy.
All right, gang, so that is 4 more Star Trek games for you. I hope, if you're a Star Trek fan out there, that I was able to help you find some great Star Trek games that you can put into your collection and enjoy as a Star Trek fan. And if you're not a Star Trek fan, hope you saw some that maybe you'd be interested in checking out, despite the theme. And like I said before, this isn't the end. It might be the end right now, but I'm going to get some more of these Star Trek games, and I'm going to continue this series going forward because Star Trek is a passion of mine. I should have done this a long time ago, because I love it so much. So until next time, everybody, have a good one.
I should have done this a long time ago. 5-card stud, nothing wild. And the sky's the limit.
Thanks so much, everybody. If you've enjoyed this video, please do us a giant favor by subscribing to the channel and clicking that wacky bell icon. If you're into board games, miniatures games, role-playing games, we have a bunch of audio podcasts you might enjoy. You can find those at thesecretcabal.com or on iTunes and Stitcher.